Today, I wanted to make a video about how tech sales is not for everyone and how to evaluate if it is a good fit for what you're doing. The reason I'm making this is not only in my sales career have I seen people who ultimately didn't make it long term, but even in my own career, going through college, I was good at math and science. I just chose to study engineering because it was supposed to be a high-paying job, and within a year of graduating college and working in engineering, I realized I hated it. And since then, I've switched over to sales. I very much enjoy it. I even coach people now who maybe have a college degree, are looking at sales and trying to break in. And if you don't have a degree, I recently partnered with Course Careers. There's more information in the description below. But I see right now tech sales is growing as a category so much. Everyone's incredibly interested in tech sales, and I think a lot of people could be a great fit. Don't get me wrong, the point of this video is not to say like don't pursue tech sales, but I think especially if you're hearing this idea of 100K plus salary, especially if you've had no exposure to sales, no exposure to customer facing interactions, it's definitely possible to break in. But if that's all you're driven by is just the strict dollar amount, you're not gonna make it. So let me break this down from my own experience on a few different ways, right? When I graduated high school and went to college, like I said, I was good at math and science and I wasn't too particular, so I just picked engineering. That being said, I've always been a little bit more of an extroverted person. I've always been very competitive. I have an athletic background as well. And so I kind of got into engineering and I was just good enough at it, but I never really questioned if that was the long-term path for me. And what kept me going is this idea that I'd graduate with a healthy job with maybe 70K salary, with long-term breaking into six figures, 100K plus. Well, the reality is during college, again, I expanded my athletic career. I had a chance to play internationally. It was a very great experience. But the reality is I became way more obsessed with sport, and school was just kind of this thing I did on the side. I didn't put a lot of thought into it. And by the time I graduated and was starting to consider what my life would be beyond sport, I was really caught off guard when I got to an engineering 9-to-5 job, and everyone around me was not the competitive person that was around me. Everyone around me really was like more of an engineer type, wanted to tinker with things, build stuff on the side. And for me, I was just competitive. I just wanted to go all the time, work on something really intensely, really competitively, be in an environment where healthy competition was encouraged. And there was nothing like that at all in engineering. Thankfully, at the first job that I had, I did get a little bit of exposure to tech sales as a whole. I didn't even really know what it was. And one thing that's great about this channel and the many others that are out there is there's so much more visibility over the last 5 years into what tech sales even is. So again, it's not like this video is saying, don't go into tech sales. But I also think it's very easy to get caught up in the hype. It's very easy to see a lot of people talking about, look how much I made, look at all of these different things, which are true, which are possible. Like I have a very, very healthy salary now, but that's not what it's about. Like I very much enjoy tech sales, and even just taking my athletic background into sales, I know there's many athletes that have never had sales experience and found their way into sales and did very well because they had a lot of the intangible skills that are needed beforehand before just breaking in. It's okay if you don't have any sales experience. It's okay if you're driven by a higher salary and higher earning potential. Don't get me wrong, those are things that definitely factored into my choice to leave engineering and go to tech sales. But again, I was also a very competitive person. It doesn't necessarily have to be like I'm the most extroverted, most macho person in the world, but sitting and just doing the same thing, receiving the same paycheck was incredibly boring to me. And it got to the point where literally I could have been in like a senior software engineering role and could have made like $250,000 a year and I still wouldn't have cared. And I think that mentality really helped me kind of burn the bridge and go all in on tech sales. And so again, like if you're not happy with your job, if you want more earning potential, that is great. But not only that, you need to now put in a lot of work to truly understand what tech sales is. And also when you do break in, when you do finally get in your first job, burn the bridge. Like there's no 1 foot in, 1 foot out. There's no, I'm gonna try this for a year and see if it works out. I really think if you're trying to break into tech sales, you need to have the mindset that for better or worse, for the next 3 to 5 years, you're gonna try it out before you even consider leaving the industry. Even if you're coming from a job where you're making 40 to 50,000 a year, whatever it might be, right? You'll go in and get your first tech sales job between $60,000 and $90,000, and that's a great step up. But the exponential returns, the people that are talking to you like myself, my salary is almost $300,000 a year. But again, it took a couple years to even get to that point where I'm broaching $200,000+ a year. It took a couple years to figure out how to get really good at tech sales and be effective so I could be hired, so I could promote into the highest level roles around enterprise account executive, etc. And so my point being, again, is very easy and it's good. Like if you're excited about tech sales, if this is like the first, second, or third video you've seen, like more power to you and keep going. But this this initial excitement that you have, the initial potential of making 100K plus if you've never done that before is very exciting, but it's not going to sustain you, and you're gonna get 6 months down the line and maybe realize you pick something that you don't even care about. When you're making 50 to 70 to 100 calls a day and you realize that, man, I don't even like what I'm doing, you're not going to have the success long-term to get into those highest levels of sales and ultimately perform at a level where you're making 300,000 plus a year. And I think I really just want to reemphasize in this video, again, I think there's tons of people who aren't aware of tech sales that can be a great fit and should consider making that move to tech sales. But also, again, for me, I spent 3 years as an engineer. Like I mentioned, I realized I hated it in year 1, and I stuck with it because I kind of felt stuck. I didn't really know what else I could do, and it took me a long time to find the right opportunity in tech sales and make that move. But once I did, again, I was like, hey, I hate engineering so much. And again, more respect to engineering. It's a great career path, and I think it works for people who aren't hyper competitive, who aren't extroverted, or whatever you want to say, right? But again, for me, it was when I finally made that move to tech sales, it was like, this is what I'm going to do for the next 5 years, for better or worse. I will figure it out. I'm not worried anymore about failing. And that is, I think, what has set me up so well in my tech sales career. Yes, again, I had some of the prerequisite. It's not even that I had formal sales experience. Like I never even had like a sales job in high school or college, not even like retail sales or anything. But again, I got exposure to tech sales in my first engineering job. I kind of had a glance of what it is. And if you are new to the space, there's so much more online, even in the last 3 to 4 years, than there ever was when my career first started. So I think you're at a huge advantage to get exposure to what tech sales is like before you break in. But that being said, again, if you're gonna make that move, are you competitive? Are you willing to truly make 50 to 100 cold calls a day the first year of your career? Are you willing to wait and do very boring and trivial tasks, probably for the first year or 2 of your career, before you start reaching that 200, before you start reaching that $300,000 a year earning potential? And again, if so, if you are making that move, I encourage you to do it. But are you mentally prepared and have that understanding going in that it's going to take minimum 3 to 5 years to really see the payoff? And can you commit to that long term? Again, I really appreciate the support as this channel has grown. And again, the point of this video is not saying don't do tech sales, but let's have proper expectations going in. Let's make sure that you're truly committed, for better or worse, to seeing it out. And again, if it doesn't work out, I still think it's a great place to be. If you get exposure to sales for a year or 2, there's a lot of people that do sales for 2, 3 years. Maybe they go to customer support. Maybe they go to sales enablement. Maybe they look at a sales engineering role. I still think it's a great place to be, and you'll find success however it looks. But again, you can't do it and have this idea that, well, I'll just try it for 6 months, because you're not going to be in it long enough to see the exponential returns. And I encourage you, if you are trying to make that move, to really plan for the long term. So I hope that helps. Appreciate your time, and we'll see you in our next video.